Hi, Tom Trento here, TrentoVision.tv on this beautiful Thursday, the 11th of April in South Florida, and beautiful in New York also. But there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in New York, and today on WNN 1470 and TrentoVision.tv, we're going to bring you some unbelievable information, ladies and gentlemen. We have Pamela Geller with a jihad at the synagogue going on in New York. It's amazing, this particular story, and we will have in just a couple of moments live Pamela Geller, the blogger, counter-jihad activist, writer, hardcore American, a Jewish woman who has been denied the opportunity to speak at a particular synagogue in Great Neck, Long Island. This is a bizarre story. We broke this story about 3 weeks ago, actually the 20th of March, 2013, with 7 deadly emails. The story, as of last night, as of around 5 o'clock yesterday, on Wednesday the 10th, the story today was going to be about Pamela and Greg Buckley, the father of Greg Buckley Jr., who was killed in Afghanistan. The story of them speaking at the Great Neck, Long Island Synagogue, 5 o'clock last night. Then at 8 o'clock last night, the story took a very bizarre turn.
Yep.
The event was canceled. And then at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, on the 11th of April, a couple of events are back on a couple of synagogues. We're gonna get the exact information from Pamela Geller in just a few minutes. But we got to give you a little bit of a background as to how all of this occurred. And the best way to quickly establish sort of a template for Pamela's analysis and explanation is to go back to September 11th, 2012. You remember that goofy trailer, Innocence of Muslims, that was played by somebody in California, and all the jihadis went nuts worldwide? That on your screen right now is a frame shot of Muhammad on that trailer, Innocence of Muslims. And then the next thing that happened worldwide, that second shot, if you can bring the second shot up, calling for the beheading of anybody who insulted the Prophet. This is all in that first week, September 11, 2012. Behead the man who insulted our Prophet Muhammad and our religion. You can see that on the screen right there. Now, remember, September 11th in Cairo, Egypt, the jihadis in Egypt, the American-loving jihadis stormed the embassy, burned the American flag, raised the black flag of Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Then in Benghazi, we know that whole situation. Well, Newsweek even did a report on it. And take a look at the cover of Newsweek. Muslim rage. Muslims in rage all over the world because of September 11th. Now let's cut to September 23rd, 2012, where the United West was in Manhattan, and we attended the Muslim Day Parade. That's right, folks. CJ, the Muslim Day Parade. Going down Madison Avenue, and the New York Police Department was leading
them.
And the black flag of Al-Qaeda was in this parade. Mark, you got any video you can show to catch everybody up?
Go ahead, keep going.
All right, we're going to take a look at a little piece of video we shot on the 23rd of September. All of this is related to Pamela Geller today, folks. Watch how this all comes together.
I can't believe it. I can't believe we're even talking about this today, because this was supposed to be a victory for free speech.
I know. But it had a little twist, a little turn. It may still turn out to be something very good. But back in September 23, the United West team was on Madison Avenue, and we're putting the video together right now for you to take a look at what we found, what we taped. And our eyes popped out of our heads as the Imam Shabazz, I think his name was, from Brooklyn, a jihadi, is up there. Now, it's only 2 weeks removed from 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And he's calling for the United Nations to write blasphemy laws,
which of course they already have.
Yeah, in the United States, to apply toward anybody who was criticizing Islam or their prophet Muhammad.
That's right.
Not only did Imam Shabazz, not only was he railing up there like a maniac, but then this very eloquent, very attractive, sounded like an English woman, got up and read this poem about jihad and the need to not criticize Islam, and that the Zionist Nazis were in control. And that's where Senator Avella, state senator,
She was the one talking about the unborn martyrs in her
unborn
womb.
martyrs in our womb,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. Well, that's
Lovely.
where Senator Avella got up off the stage, took off. I ran after him. I was able to interview him a little bit, and he said he was just disgusted with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, what we found back on the 23rd, and we really didn't discover it until you saw it the other
Right.
day. Tell them what we found on the screen. Tell you what.
Oh, well,
We have the video.
yeah, we can show can we show the video? And
Okay,
then
we
we'll
gotta show it
explain.
real quick.
Yeah, we got to show it real quick, and then we'll say what we're
Tom
saying.
Trento with the United West on Sunday, September 23rd, 2012, Midtown Manhattan at the Muslim Parade. And we're going to show you a whole bunch of stuff about the parade at some point, but right now we got to draw attention to breaking news. During the presentations at the end of the parade, where the dignitaries got up and spoke, several jihadi individuals spoke. One in particular was an imam from Brooklyn who condemned the United States and called for blasphemy laws to be written by the United Nations, by the United States, and by President Obama against anyone who blasphemed the Prophet.
The freedom of speech and freedom of rights of other stars. So
a Nazi.
I would like to demand United Nations
That's why they do this.
to make an international law that would criminalize blasphemy. I again demand to the United Nations on this platform, please make an international law for the protection of honor of our beloved Prophet.
Following that individual was a very articulate English woman who gave sort of a rap poetic presentation about the horror of the United States and the need for the Ummah, the Muslim family, to stand up against the United States as they insult the Prophet.
We have the unborn martyrs in our homes and drop bombs in the rain because of what we blow up with minds and bills. In refugee camps that are housed by Zionist Nazis.
Well, that was too much for one of the marshals of the parade, State Senator Tony Avella. He was asked to be a marshal. He marched with the Muslims down Madison Avenue, about 10 blocks. He sat on the stage. He was ready at some point to speak. After these two jihadis, the imam from Brooklyn and the articulate English woman, condemned the United States, he had enough. He got up off the stage, left in protest, left in disgust. I tried to catch up with him. We got a few words from him. What did you think of that?
Thank you.
What did you think of that? I was offended. Excuse me. What is your name? Tony Avella. You're with the city? I'm a state senator. A state senator. What offended you? I'm not going to get into it. No, we saw you up there very upset. You want to share it? No, thanks. I want to ruin the State Senator Tony Avella deserves to be commended for recognizing the horror of this presentation, the horror of this Muslim Day parade, and again, he is a hero to all Americans for walking off that stage. God bless you, Tony Avella.
Yeah, well, Tony Avella may be needed right now on this Pamela Geller situation. If you guys could find the video with the Islamic Center of Long Island flag. What we found there, folks, directly relates to Pamela Geller and her situation. We were reviewing some of this video from Muslim Day, September 23, 2012, the other day, and we saw leading the parade was the Islamic Center of Long Island. They are directly connected with the two jihadis that were calling for blasphemy laws. We also saw a connection between the Nassau County Human Rights Commission and the Interfaith Alliance. We saw all of this at the event on 23 September 2012. Jump to right now, March 20th. There's on our screen right now is the Islamic Center of Long Island, one of the primary sponsors of this anti-American, anti-Jewish event that had the New York Police Department leading it down Madison Avenue. Jump from the 23rd of September 2012 to the 20th of March. We got our hands on, we can't tell you how we got our hands on it, but we got our hands on 7 deadly emails. And we quickly evaluated it, made a decision to publish the emails. And if you can come to my screen, Mike, come to my screen. I'm going to show this. This lays the groundwork for our interview with Pamela. You can see on email number 1, from Richard Tibbetts, who's with the Interfaith Alliance, to all of these people that are either with the Interfaith Alliance or the Islamic Center of Long Island or a couple of other Jewish or leftist organizations. And when we get down to email number 2, an individual by the name of Habib Ahmed, who is the president-elect of the Islamic Center of Long Island, starts to conspire to deny Pamela Geller of her right to speak at the Great Neck Synagogue. And he actually says, let's go get some Jewish organizations, let's organize them against her. And since the 20th of March to today, I don't know what the hell has been going on, but we have an individual here with us right now who can straighten all this out. Hello, Pamela Geller. Welcome to TrentoVision with myself, CJ, and all the guys right there. How you doing?
Hey, Kurt, how you doing?
Good, good. We're doing very well. Can you straighten this out? Tell us what's going on, please.
Well, I can't straighten out what's irretrievably broken, to be honest with you. First of all, I want to congratulate you on doing the seminal and critical work in exposing the cabal. You know, what was interesting to me is we have seen this pattern repeatedly whenever I or any of my colleagues, Robert Spencer, Noni Darwish, Ibn Wark, is scheduled to speak, something happens behind the scenes. And the next thing you know, they're canceled. And here we got a glimpse into how the machine, the Islamic supremacist / leftist machine operates. A small but very vocal group of people led by an imam or a cleric or a interfaith dialoguist puts out the call to strong arm the leader of whatever organization is having us. This happened last month with Robert Spencer at the Catholic Diocese. And so you see how it is done. Vis-a-vis the emails that was a story that you wrote, that critical story, where Habib Ahmed, the executive director of the Islamic Center of Long Island, who I want to add has had really egregious, virulently anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-America jihad supporters speak there. 9/11 truthers, nobody says boo. And what they do is they work behind the scenes and then they quietly step back and they let their pasty-faced leftist shills, the lapdogs, do the work. In the case of the Great Neck Surrender, it was two uber-left Reformed rabbis who have a notorious reputation for speaking out against Jewish causes and speaking for these interfaith coalitions. Again, it's a euphemism. What's interesting about, I have to bring this up, interfaith dialogue, is that one of the rabbis that has asked me to speak, he stepped up, and I know I'm probably jumping and I shouldn't, but this is an important point to the story. Rabbi Rosenberg in Edison, New Jersey, he just resigned from his interfaith coalition.
Good for him.
because the imams would get up and walk out before the Hatzikah was closed. So he had enough of that, and he resigned, because it's always one way. Really, interfaith is a euphemism for dawah.
Exactly. Exactly.
It goes one way. I do think that the shul had no idea what it was in for. The march that was promised on the shul on Sunday morning. Now, mind you, we had a strong contingent of counter-protesters, of freedom lovers, that were coming with flags. But they do have a Sunday school. I do think they became concerned. We were working closely with the police department, and I do understand the concern for the children. I mean, any human being with half a heart understands you protect the children. But I also wonder what message you're sending to the children. Here, on the one hand, in Hebrew school, you're teaching them about Queen Esther and the Maccabees and King David.
Right.
And then, when the slightest hint of trouble or a threat is presented, what example did the shul and the synagogue elders present to the children?
Right. Well, Pamela, I think that really is part of the overall strategy of the Islamist leftist coalition, is to make it so uncomfortable, so expensive with security, and so threatening, just even how much money or how much security your facility is going to require to even listen to one of these speakers, that regardless of what the content is, the institutions just say, you know what, we don't want this hassle, we don't need this, we don't want to pay for it, we don't want to take the risk, and we're canceling it, we're not participating. And I think that's a big part of their overall strategy of how to shut us up voluntarily.
I understand, and I don't disagree with you. But I have to, immediately the knee-jerk response is, what price freedom? I mean, I know that it's important to get new red rubber balls for the playground, and I know it's important for congregants to get that, new vehicle or that new dress or that new... What price freedom?
Right.
If I'm not going to stand up, then who? And if they're not going to stand up, then who? This is a pattern.
That's what we're in agreement. And I think we need to back up a little bit for the listeners and viewers, because what was the subject of your speech to be with Mr. Buckley? I mean, you're coming in there with the father of a slain war hero.
Yes.
And why should anybody be opposed to hearing what the two of you have to say in a time of war?
Because, first of all, there's a defamation campaign going on. I was to speak on Sharia in America, the war on free speech. So that's why I smiled when you asked me, because it's sort of poetic and it's ironic that my speech on the war on free speech was canceled. Hello?
Yeah.
I mean, what could be more illustrative of just how bad things really are? And of course, Mr. Buckley and I have spoken before together. His son was killed on a green on blue attack, again, because of a refusal to understand the jihadic doctrine, a refusal to understand why the jihadi who not only murdered Greg Buckley in cold blood, but shot and killed 6 of his brothers in the gym. Of course, they were not armed, because it's part of this nonsensical fantasist illusion of, we're going to, win them over, the hearts and minds argument. It's nonsensical. It completely disregards the base motive, the base ideology that inspires these acts of jihad. When he was killing these young boys, he was screaming, "I've done my jihad."
Right. Right.
I mean, it's just, it speaks to a hardwire of delusion. And he was a man whose son was coming home, I think, in less than a week.
Yeah.
Oh, what a tragedy.
Yeah, very, very sad.
Hang
on, I've got a couple of...
Didn't understand why his son had been murdered. He knows better now. He understands better now.
We saw some of his video on YouTube, the father's video. It's just so sad. It's unbelievable. But taking a step back, in terms of our ongoing investigation of Islamic Center of Long Island, we have found some interesting stuff. I'm just going to lay it out now. We're not done with our research.
That's right.
But we have found this, in terms of the cabal and the 7 deadly emails, the conspiracy against you, we found obviously the Nassau Human Rights Commission, and now there's an investigation against Habib. Now, I think, ironically and sadly, with the Great Neck Synagogue canceling, it almost vindicates Habib's premise that, you are a problem, you shouldn't be there. So that's one thing.
He broke the law, he violated the public trust. It should be persecuted to the full extent of the law. And people should, and I believe that we should march on Habib's office, and I intend to call for a march on Habib's Human Rights Office after the event on Sunday.
Beautiful.
Good for you.
Well, listen to this. He's also very tied into this, the Interfaith Alliance. And one of the darlings of the Islamic Center of Long Island is Dr. Aziza Al-Hibri. Have you heard that name yet? Dr. Aziza Al-Hibri? She is one of the darlings of the Islamic Center. She also serves on the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. She was appointed to the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. They go around the world and they evaluate religious freedom in different countries and make recommendations.
And we know how well that's going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She was appointed on June 7th, 2011 to that position by guess who? President Obama.
Of course.
So I think, Pamela, you may have reached the White House. I think Habib called his friend, Dr. Aziza Al-Habri, and said, we need some help. Can you have the administration use whatever tactics they can, wherever, whomever, whatever's going on? We got to stop her from speaking at that synagogue. We have not ruled that out. So that's something we're pursuing right now.
I certainly would not be surprised. The intimidation and the threats and the harassment, from what I understand, really was relentless. And as you know, you broke that story 3 weeks ago. This has been going on for some time. And so I do believe, look, it was a Sunday morning talk at the men's club of the synagogue. We're talking about really a non-event. And the fact that it would be met with such vitriol and such opposition speaks to a much larger problem. This is what Habib Ahmed is doing. I mean, he uses his mujahideen. He's got his own army, his mujahideen to enforce the Sharia. That's what this is. Under the Sharia, you cannot criticize Islam. You cannot offend Islam. This is the institution of the Sharia, and we know that for decades, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, once the Organization of Islamic Conference, now Cooperation, has been seeking to impose, this is their agenda, to impose a quote-unquote defamation of religion, to criminalize.
International blasphemy laws.
And we know that defamation of religion really speaks to one religion and one set of laws, because the Jewish law has no such thing, and Jewish law is applicable to just Jews, and canon law is applicable to just Catholics. But the Sharia, which is a comprehensive legal system which dictates every aspect of your daily human life, asserts its authority over non-Muslims and denies them basic human rights. And that's what they're seeking to impose here. And I will tell you that just because it hasn't come down from the Supreme Court doesn't mean it's not happening. You're witnessing it. This is Sharia.
Hey, Pamela, where were you? No, everything you said, obviously, and this is a
We
great
talk about this
educational-
every day.
Yeah, this is a great educational moment for our audience. We're on WNN 1470, broadcasting on the radio side out of Boca Raton, Florida, from North Miami all the way up to Orlando. And we're also simulcasting on TrentoVision.tv.
And Trento,
Yeah.
I'll be in Orlando next Saturday, the 20th. At the Awakening, I'll be
Oh,
speaking.
you're going to be there? Okay.
I
We'll
didn't
be
know
up
that
there.
your waves, your Trento waves, went that far. But I did, but now that I know, so if anybody's in the
It's
Navy,
kind of a miasma.
We'll be up. We will be up there, and we'll let you buy us a drink. How about that?
well, we'll negotiate.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't going to be a yes.
We'll negotiate the drink phrase.
We'll negotiate how many drinks you'll
Hey,
be buying
Habib.
Pamela.
Where's my buddy
Where's
Habib?
Habib? Yeah, we'll get Habib on this one.
Where's my buddy Habib? Where's my buddy Habib?
Yeah. it would
You
be-
know, where were you? Well, last night when you heard it was canceled, what was your first reaction? And then tell us about how these two synagogues came online today. What's all that about?
I was home, and I had heard it, of course, from your next guest. I think you're having Jeffrey Wiesenfeld on, a wonderful patriot, really an outspoken, courageous organizer of the entire event. Was crestfallen. He really was. I was so impressed with the Great Neck Synagogue. It's very difficult for institutions that have no clue, completely uninitiated in this terrible war. It's a war in the information battle space. And of course, I was not surprised, enormously disappointed, because it sets a very dangerous precedent. It sets a very bad and dangerous precedent. Clearly, other synagogues will be most reluctant to engage in this kind of much-needed dialogue for fear of these kinds of repercussions. And I think they put the very children that they were seeking to protect, I think they put them at greater risk. It's cowardly, it's craven, it's weak, and it shows absolutely no, civilizational or religious conviction. By however you want to stretch it. I mean, look, if it was about money, we would have put out calls to raise money for security. Look, I was coming with my own security team. I'm going to be going to the, and we need to talk about that, the other 2 shuls where I'll be speaking that day. I have to bring my own security team. You have to raise money. You have to do it. You have to do it. They're seeking to silence you. You cannot be silenced. So everybody was, of course, enormously disappointed, and CBS called me, and they wanted to know what I thought. And, of course, it's interesting because as soon as that happened, even the media, who I call the enemy media because they are at war with the American people and they're at war with our freedoms, the narrative changes. Anti-Islam speaker,
Yeah.
First of all, let me say this. This is part of the defamation of the libel, that I am anti-Muslim. It's absolutely not true. I am anti-Sharia, and I oppose jihad. Oh, absolutely. But by calling me anti-Muslim, they're implying that every single Muslim supports jihad and Sharia. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. So they're the ones, in my opinion, who are Islamophobic. They're the ones calling one Muslim pro-Sharia and pro-jihad. Even when they talk about my ads, they say she ran anti-Muslim ads that call Muslims savages. Not true.
That's right.
There is no Muslim in that ad. There is no Islam in that ad. There is only defeat jihad.
Yeah.
I am calling jihadists savages. Oh, yes, I stand by that. Yes, I do. And so, again, they're implying that all Muslims are jihadis. So this is a libel, and this is a smear, and it becomes accepted as it gets repeated. You know what Hitler said? Goebbels. The same school of thought. You keep repeating the big lie, the big lie.
Yeah.
And it becomes the truth, or as Churchill said, a lie is halfway around the world before the truth even gets its pants on.
That's right. It's pretty good. Hey, we got a few minutes left with you before we have to go get Jeff. Tell us about the 2 synagogues and these brave rabbis there.
Yeah, so as soon as because I had worked till about 4 in the morning, so I guess at like 8 or 9, I started to get these emails, these inquiries from people that such and such rabbi is looking to contact you, and this other rabbi, and Rabbi Rosenberg of the Congregation Beth El in Edison, New Jersey. I think he's a wonderful man. Pay for you to talk to him. I don't know what your schedule is like, maybe not today, but another day. Really a courageous and fearless rabbi, because I said to the rabbi, look, you don't know what you're getting into here, No, this is right, and, of course, it's a Jewish value.
Right.
Freedom of speech is a Jewish value. And so he stepped up, and he's having me speak Saturday evening at 7 p.m. That's Temple Bethel. Any of your listeners that have family in New Jersey, come. Take a stand. Now is the time. It's not 5 minutes to midnight. It's midnight. It's after midnight. And, of course, in Great Neck, which I think is really important, at the same time that the event was to take place at the Great Neck Synagogue at 10 a.m., I will be speaking at the Chabad, where Rabbi Yosef Gaisensky, I may be saying it wrong, so forgive me, is hosting myself again. And at both events, Greg Buckley's father will be speaking. I know Congressman Dov Hikind will be there. Many notables will be coming. So that's at 400 East Shore Road in Great Neck, New York, at 10 a.m. And then afterwards, I'm hoping to lead a march on Habib Ahmed's Human Rights Office in Mineola, where he obviously used his political office to strong-arm a small synagogue to crush our First Amendment rights. And that cannot go unanswered. We should be there. We should be at his office. We should be protesting. And we should be encouraging the district attorney to not only pursue an investigation, but to terminate his sorry gluteus maximus from that position.
Right. So that's at 400 East Shore Road, Great Neck, New York. Is that correct?
That's right, at 10 a.m.
At 10 a.m.?
On Sunday, yes.
On Sunday. And what's the phone number again, Pamela? Or is there a contact info, or did you have a contact info for them?
I don't have it at my beck and call.
Okay, I didn't know.
But it will be on, you will put it on your
You're
site.
going to put it on your website at dallasshrugs.com.
I would, these rabbis deserve to be heard, because I can tell you that the rabbis, the traitorous, the quisling rabbis of the Reform movement that came out, and one rabbi said that I called all Muslims animals. I mean, just lies.
Absolute lies. It's leftist lies is what it is.
Isn't that a commandment not to bear false witness, I ask you? And so the CBS spoke to both of them. Michael White did a big thing in PIX. I don't know if anybody's calling these two rabbis. And that's why I say to you, I don't know what your schedule looks like. I know you plan these things. We planned this last week. I understand that. But these rabbis should be spoken to.
Yeah.
They should be given it.
Pamela, I want to ask you something, because I'm so glad to hear about these two other synagogues and that people will get a chance to hear you. But it is expensive for you to go speak somewhere because you do have a lot of security concerns. And before we let you go, I want to make sure that we tell people where they can go to get in touch with you, atlasshrugs.com. And if they want to make a specific donation on the web to help you with your security costs when you go speaking, how do they do that?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive because you have to get a team, and the team has to reconnoiter with the PD, and and they have to rent a vehicle. It's a lot, you know. American Freedom Defense.
American Freedom Defense
at AOL.com. You can send funds via PayPal, and you could say, I want this to go to security, because we do, now that there's two events we have to raise for those two events, and honestly, we cannot go. We cannot go without security.
Of course not.
No.
Of course.
I mean, the threat. I mean, the threats. I mean, they and it's funny because WPAX, you wanted to know, you know, aren't you afraid? You know, I get that a lot, and I don't understand the question, because I'm more afraid of doing nothing.
Exactly. Tom, you have one last question?
Yeah, we have one last question for you, summing all of this up. What do you think is the main lesson, number one takeaway lesson from what's occurred in the past couple of weeks, but really the past 24 hours? Yeah.
I really think that when you and I and Robert Spencer and Dr. Bostome and all of our colleagues speak to this war in the information battle space, and they say that we are, you know, right-wing conspiracy theorists, I think this is evidence of conspiracy fact. I think this is very real. I think that this is a forbidden subject. The media self-enforces the Sharia. They will not criticize. They will not offend Islam. And so the takeaway is it's happening. The takeaway is it's fluid, that it's not static. It's moving, and it's moving in an altogether terrible direction. And that no one is going to save you. You are going to save you. You have to get involved. You have to speak. Everybody has a sphere of influence. Everybody thinks, oh, I can't cure this problem. No doctor, if there's AIDS, no doctor says, oh, I can't cure everybody of AIDS. Well,
right.
So I shouldn't do anything? You cure the people within that you can treat. And that's how everybody in your listening area, they should be saying, hey, you listen to Trento today? Hey, you put this on. Send the link. You all, peanuts make a bagful. Everybody has it.
Peanuts make a bag full. That's what you got to remember, folks. Definitely. Pamela Geller.
Excellent.
Well, let's put her back on. We're going to let you go now. I think we're going to do
you.
this. I think we're going to do this on a regular basis. You know, get a little update.
Yeah, we
from
need
you.
to get updates from the crazy world of Pamela Geller.
Yeah.
This is the Welcome to My World edition.
Yeah.
Tom, I want to thank you for doing what you did. I want to thank you for that email. That story was, I mean, from my point of view, I know it's a lot of inside baseball, but from my point of view, it was a Danish cartoon moment. It was a blockbuster moment. It was really huge. And again, you know, thank you for your steadfast, loyal,
No problem.
to the work.
We got a great team here. Let's give Pamela Geller a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Good job. Great work, Pamela. Great work.
All right.
Great
Thank
work,
you
Pamela.
very much.
Thanks so much.
All right.
See you later.
Pamela Geller.
I'd love to talk to her next week after she gives her two
Should we do?
speeches.
Should we do like a weekly update with her? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Huh?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Doing great work. She's done some great work up there.
Brave lady, and be praying for her because this is a dangerous world. And you know, her point, a lot of peanuts make a bag. That's actually very, very good.
That's what you were saying
I
yesterday.
know, it's the same thing. Yeah. But This is a developing story. The other side has a say in the game. You can call Jeff now. We'll get him on.
Okay.
The other side has a dog in the fight. They're listening. They're watching. They're watching the show right now. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely.
they know that Pamela and her friends are coming to Habib's office.
Right.
So they're going to go get their jihadi guys out there, and the police are going to be all over the place.
Well, it's a Sunday though, so I don't know.
Yeah, well.
People don't work there on Sunday.
But we got to give a kudos to the two rabbis who said, "Hey, come to my place."
Come to my place. Yeah.
Those are some lines of Judah. Lions.
Lying, liars. Yeah,
Well,
right.
the lying, liars were the other guys on ALAC. These are Lions, Lions of
Yes.
Judah. So that's great. Right now, we're going to bring on in a minute, as soon as we get him, Jeff Wiesenfeld. A little bit of background on Jeff, because we'll have him just for a short amount of time here on the 11th of April, 2013. TrentoVision.tv. Tom Trento, Cheryl Joy,
CJ.
CJ.
Just CJ, please.
We got the boys on the other side over there. We're broadcasting on WNN 1470 out of Boca Raton, Florida. And the title for our show today is Pamela Geller, Jihad at the Synagogue. Because by way of quick review, last night, Wednesday evening, about 6 o'clock when we left here, we were planning a show, Pamela being with Mr. Greg Buckley at the Great Neck Synagogue and just doing their presentation. No big deal.
And but it is a big deal because it was a victory for free speech that
Yeah.
she was going to be speaking there in the first place.
And
And this was supposed to be a celebration show.
a celebration show. Good point.
Okay.
And you have something to say, Imam Abdullah?
I cannot believe the she-devil will speak.
We're calling for.
She was.
And
I thought they got rid of her. I was so happy, and now this.
No, you can't put the she-devil down. That's the way you have to understand. Put her down, she pounces right back up.
And then just for
Hey,
me,
wait. What do you think of her? You saw her. What do you think?
he
That
likes
woman-
her.
Yeah, I think
That
he
was-
does.
Wink, wink. She's
That
a babe.
It is very unfortunate she is not Muslima.
How was she looking at burqa, do you think?
Everybody look good in burqa. You, Trento, would look good in burqa.
Okay,
All right.
now you're getting
Well,
a little weird for me here.
I get all right, so we're bringing Jeff on a little bit. Not yet?
I just think terribly ironic and shameful. We recognize Yom HaShoah this week.
This week, yeah.
And we're talking about the complete capitulation of European and world society to the destruction of the Jewish people, and how and just the unbearable silence of it, and the complicity of the civilized world in letting this happen. And now the parallels are the same
Parallels
right now,
are
because the same mentality in the United States back in the 1930s and the 1940s that said, you know what, that's a European problem, we don't want to get involved, don't bring those people over here, don't rock the boat, we're going to suffer from anti-Semitism, so let's just keep our heads down and keep out of this fight. And they did, and to me, when I see this synagogue doing what they did at the last minute, that is the same thing. And all these people on the interfaith councils who want to build bridges of peace with the people who want to kill them, and then they shut up their own co-religionists and stifle them and silence them and capitulate to Sharia law, that to me is just unbelievably disgusting.
We're going to have to pursue the two rabbis that we're going to lead a march against the Great Neck Synagogue, against Pamela. What were their names? Their names are out there somewhere. Abdullah, you remember their names?
I don't think it was not the rabbis themselves.
Michael White and what's the other guy?
It was, no, but
Jerome Davidson.
Jerome Davidson. Those
Yeah.
two guys.
Michael White. and
it
Jerome
was,
Davidson.
you have to understand how synagogues work. It was not solely within the rabbi's power necessarily to counsel or not to counsel the speaking engagement of the men's club, and it actually was the synagogue board who issued it. And the rabbis are employees of the synagogue.
We got him?
So
We got Jeff on? Okay, let's go right to Jeff now. Jeff Wiesenfeld, how you doing? It's Tom Trento here on TrentoVision.tv, and we're broadcasting on WNN 1470. Are you with us, Jeff?
Apparently not, but go ahead.
Apparently not. Okay, well, we thought he was.
You know, we spoke to Jeff before.
Yeah, Jeff's been on the show before.
Yeah.
Jeff's a former federal agent, worked for the FBI, and now he's a businessman in New York, and he's actually a member of the Great Neck
But he was
Synagogue.
also a close friend and associate of the late Mayor Ed Koch.
Remember, we had him on for that kind of memorial
Yeah,
with
we
Ed
did.
Koch.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is not a like a right wing kind
No.
of Tea Party
Oh,
zealot.
he worked
kind
for
of
Ed
guy,
Koch, you know, in the administration.
Yeah. So
Now,
I
Jeff
think
would be
that's
a
important for-
conservative on Israel issues and
Right.
national security.
Right.
But he was the prime mover. He was the guy that put the event together with Pamela.
Okay.
So he invited Pamela or assisted the men's club
Mhm.
in inviting Pamela and Greg Buckley
Right.
to do the presentation. So he's in the middle of the whole thing, and there's been a series, as you could imagine. There must have been about 50 people involved in some of the organization. It's been a series of emails all day today on the 11th of April, all day up until our showtime with what's going on, and Jeff's in the middle of it explaining things to people. So, and he basically said, if we're not able to get him, I know what he's saying. He was extremely disappointed in
Yeah.
his synagogue having to step down, but he understood as the outside Reform Jewish forces got stronger and stronger, and these people were, this is beautiful Muslim Brotherhood 101.
Yep.
Get the useful idiot Jews
Yeah.
to do our dirty work.
Yeah.
It was in the emails, remember?
Yeah.
Let's
was.
go find Jewish people to do this.
Let's go find Jewish
Well, as
people
as
to do
the
it. Yeah.
as the pressure mounted against the synagogue,
Yeah.
well, we'll let Jeff explain it. Jeff, are you with us?
All right, hold on.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, I got it. Go ahead.
Jeff, hi. It's Tom. Are you with us? Okay.
Yes.
There you are. Okay.
I'm here.
All right. Good to hear you. We just had Pamela Geller on for probably a 20-minute excellent interview, and she gave us an overview of what's going on. We have a few minutes with you. Tell us what your role was we're calling this the Pamela Geller Jihad at the Synagogue. Tell us what your role was in this and what's going on right now.
Well, I know Pam, and it was my sense, a correct sense, that the majority of our members, there's always a few bleeding hearts in every crowd and misguided souls, but in an Orthodox synagogue, I felt there was a good chance, and there was, that the vast majority wanted to hear what she had to say. She accepted the invitation. We had the event scheduled, and along the way, at a Republican dinner, I met this father of Lance Corporal Buckley, a tragedy, father whose young son of age 20 went into the Marines, and 2 days before he was supposed to complete his tour of duty, some Afghans that they had been assigned to train as policemen, once they were trained, they turned the guns on them and killed the Marines. There were 102 such jihadist murders, and our government refuses to take any remedial action or pressure the Karzai government or do anything. It's like the boy didn't exist. They took this man's son, they put him in the military, they had him train, and let's be honest, savages,
Yeah.
and they have what's called T-boys. T-boys are apparently young men that many Arabs in that part of the world utilize either as assistants or, in fact, to get tea or to provide sexual favors. These are pathological sociopaths, and so they use the boy to conduct the ruse, catching the Marine unaware, and then they killed him. And it's one of 102 such killings, and our government does nothing about it. So what we had intended to do is have Greg Buckley simply tell the story about his son Greg Jr. and how he had a terrible feeling about it, And his son said to him, you know, Dad, I'll be lucky if I get out of here alive. These people want to kill us. These are animals. These are ruthless people. You cannot trust them. You can't turn your back on them. And every time we come here, they make us put our weapons when we're on the base here in this basket while they're armed and we're unarmed. And they didn't punish the superior officer who permitted this. To the contrary, this is probably the policy that the Pentagon desired. They're stonewalling Mr. Buckley. Won't give him any information about his son, the particulars. He did all of the investigatory research on his own, at his own expense. These are middle-class people who own an air conditioning and refrigeration installation business. They're salt of the earth, wonderful people. My heart really hurts for them. But we're going to have them Sunday with Pam Geller out in Great Neck. Now that we have an alternate location, the synagogue, my synagogue, came under tremendous pressure. And there's this illusion, sadly, that bad things won't happen if you just don't have these people speak in your synagogue. I want to remind everybody of the hundreds and hundreds of violent and murderous incidents recorded, even by ADL, by the way. They're great at recording incidents. Trying to take action, forceful action, that's not their field. They're there to report. And so we know that when they tried to blow up the synagogue in Riverdale in the Bronx, when they shot up the El Al ticket counter, when they murdered the woman in the Jewish Community Center in Seattle, and hundreds of other events. Well, guess what? Pam Geller didn't speak in any of those places.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Can I ask you
hey, Jeff, we got a couple
Jeff?
of questions.
Yeah, I want to ask you a couple of things. First of all, what do you think would have been the reaction of the community that organized against your synagogue if it had just been Mr. Buckley who was scheduled to speak? And the other question I have is, what was your initial reaction when these emails of the conspiracy against your synagogue and against Pamela Geller?
My belief is, since Greg Buckley speaks openly about what happened and how it transpired, the content of his speech, no matter how outrageous it sounds to you and me and most of the listeners, I'm sure, the content of his speech in describing those that killed his son and what kind of a culture they're in, homophobic, misogynist, really evil culture, there's no question in my mind that they would find it offensive and find reason to go after him. So maybe not the first time because they haven't heard him yet.
Exactly.
But once they get a transcript of what he said, they'd find him to be a bigot.
Tracking him.
Yeah. It's a look. They made calls. They debilitated the phone system in the synagogue. They threatened Rabbi Davidson, who was a left-wing lunatic, was going to bring the Muslims from the same mosque where Ghazi Khan spoke and said that Israel and the CIA were responsible for 9/11. That kind of speech is okay. I mean, this is what you're dealing with, exceptional hypocrisy. But I want to say to the listeners that Rabbi Davidson is a disgrace, and every congregant who finds him to be a valid rabbi is a disgrace. And I'm going to tell you why. When I came to Great Neck, Great Neck was once a very Christian area, and it's always had a beautiful Christmas tree on the village green. When a new synagogue opened, the Chabad synagogue, they're friendly to everyone. They got permission to put up a menorah. Rabbi Davidson bitterly protested the menorah, challenged it in the village hall, threatened to bring suit because he said that the menorah was a religious symbol and the Christmas tree was a seasonal symbol. And he called it a holiday tree or whatever the hell. Let me just say this. When asked in the village hall, why do you oppose? He says, well, the next thing you know, if we have the menorah, they'll want to bring a crash scene. I'm here to tell you, and my neighbors are here to tell you, there's no such thing as a seasonal tree. It is a Christmas tree. We're happy to have it. They can bring the crash, and the Jews and the Christians need to stick together against people like Jerome Davidson.
All right,
absolutely.
All right.
We vote for that.
Because he is a threat to my well-being.
Yeah.
And to the Western civilization, the well-being of Western civilization. Hey, Jeff, we only got a couple of minutes left with you, about 2 or 3 minutes with you.
Sure.
What is, I know because we have been talking and I've been following emails. I know you need a good weekend of rest, a good Sabbath rest this weekend. But what is the one lesson, the key lesson you want to communicate to our viewers and our listeners? And this show is going to be going all over the place. So
number one, discussing the problem of a significant minority within a majority is absolutely legitimate to do. And there is no question that there is a much higher percentage of minority individuals within the Islamic faith today that are prone to violence, that advocate for violence that they're not themselves prone, than there is in Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, and so forth. And we must recognize that the reason it has to be discussed is virtually every Muslim state in the world has serious pathological and sociological problems. They export people to Europe that cause problems. It's going to be a problem here. Moderate Muslims have an obligation to join the Zudi Jassers and the Amir Taharis and the Khalid Abu Tomas, real moderate individuals. If they don't condemn their extremists, then they have no right to complain. Because the fact is today, while most Muslims are not terrorists, most terrorists are Muslims. In other words, you have to be logical about this. Usually when you're looking for a rapist, you're usually looking for a guy as opposed to a woman.
Right.
And they throw logic out the window. And of course, Council of American Islamic Relations invented this term, which I will not recognize, Islamophobia. It's a bunch of hooey. It is simply a measure to force people not to talk about their fear of radical Islam. Because if you talk about you're Islamophobic, well, I don't recognize that. If I see a problem, I want to recognize it so I can, that's the first step to trying to cure it. And if the Muslims are not going to cure it, then we have to cure it for them.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to depart with you. Let's give Jeff a hand. I mean, Jeff Wiesenfeld has been an absolute hero.
Jeff,
on
are
this
you
thing.
are you going to be listening to Pamela and Greg's speeches?
Are you kidding? First of all, let me just first of all, thank God the Chabad Synagogue is also in Great Neck. This is great. And I was so depressed last night, and I wake up this morning to find out that the cancellation in Great Neck, through no fault of their own, now brings a double audience to Mr. Buckley to try and help him with his son and Pam Geller, because two synagogues are featuring her, one in Edison, New Jersey, and the Chabad of Great Neck on Sunday. So you know what? Keep the crazies coming, because I think people are rising up. The fact that instantaneously there was such an outrage over the cancellation that two synagogues immediately came forward. So it's going to be the same number of people because we're in the same community, but the people in Edison are not going to get people from Great Neck. So that's a whole new exposure. So the point is, by canceling Great Neck, they doubled the audience.
Okay, well, Jeff, if it's possible, I'd love to hear from you next week after.
Well, wait, we got one more question. Mark has a question.
Yeah, Jeffrey, this is Mark Campbell. I'm kind of curious. The whole area up there on the Human Rights Commission is populated by 5 Muslim males with a population of 1.1% Muslims in the whole county. How is that justified?
They're about 16,000 Muslims in Nassau County. I'd say give or take 250, 250,000 or so Jews, well over 500,000 Christians, and they comprise the largest share of the board. I don't know how that happened. It started obviously with the prior administration because many of those appointees were already there. I'm not, Isn't that a diversity issue? Isn't that a human rights violation in and of itself because it's misrepresenting of the population of New York? Yeah, we believe so. I think the best, I'll tell you honestly, I don't know anything substantive that board does or has done. The first thing that they tried to do was insinuate themselves and create a problem by trying to instigate people to harass our rabbi. That's the first human rights issue they ever handled, to my knowledge, is that they went public amongst themselves to get people to harass the spiritual leader of another religious institution. So we have their number. We're watching them. But to be very honest with you, I don't know if I'd be able, even if I were asked to recommend, to recruit solid individuals to be, I don't know what the prestige would be to be on a board with a bunch of idiots.
Probably not a great task to get on. But all right, Jeff, we got to let you go. We're coming down to the bottom of our show here.
All the best. All the best.
Hey, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get in touch with you early next week.
For next week.
Early
yeah.
next week for an update on
Yeah.
what the heck took place on Sunday. How about
Yeah.
that?
That'll be a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
All the best.
Jeff Wiesenfeld, thank you very, very much. Let's give him a hand once again. All right, okay. What an afternoon.
And let's
here.
remind everybody that the opposition to Pamela Geller and Greg Buckley was led by the man who's in charge of the Islamic Center of Long Island, which led
A
the
Muslim
Muslim
guy?
Day Parade at which the Al-Qaeda flag was flown in New York City.
And a call
So-
for blasphemy against...
And called for and during this parade, during the speeches at this parade, international blasphemy laws were called for.
And you know what else?
And that's who's
behind this thing.
That's who's behind this. That's your Human Rights and Diversity Council in action right there.
And another takeaway as we wind down on TrentoVision.tv and WNN 1470 on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, the 11th of April. Another takeaway, a lot of times when these things go sideways, there's always a little bit of something good to find in it. What we found is we've exposed through our work, and you guys, everybody here has done a phenomenal job, and Pamela even recognized that. And we appreciate her recognizing the work that everybody in this room did. But we exposed the Habib situation. We exposed his connection to the Nassau human rights. Mm-hmm. Everybody sees that now. They see the disproportionate number. They know something's weird there.
Yeah.
The issue, because it was canceled, now has been blown out nationally. So there's going to be more attention. This show, which would have gotten decent coverage, is going to get tremendous coverage. It's going to go all over the place. People are going to learn more about the stealth or the cultural jihad the brothers are doing. So actually, in the last 24 hours, where it went from a celebration of free speech
Right.
to, oh my God, they beat us, to
Right.
two brave lions, Lions of Judah, stepped up, one in New York, one in Edison, and said, come to our place. And those guys they deserve a tremendous amount of credit. So thank you, rabbis, for doing that. But right now, it's down to the bottom of the hour here, or the top of the hour, as the case may be.
yeah.
And not once did I say a number. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, that was
So,
very good.
well, we will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Billy and Karen Vaughn and Ben Smith, Operation 300. We'll take care of that. Stay tuned, folks. Next week, we will do a wrap-up and a review on Pamela Geller, Jihad at the Synagogue in New York. Take care. Tom Trento, CJ, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.